mind. All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom.
I am George. And we are talking investing. The latest person grown Bitcoin mining operation, approximately 199,000 miners. Oh, Marathon. Let's go right. That's quite the goal for Marathon.
Oh, they just made a big purchase today, right?
Oh, are you kidding me? After I just sold them all?
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
they're not going to get those for a long time.
And the pain isn't over with, I don't think, with Marathon guys. That's my opinion, but go ahead, Tom. Let's go right into it, Tom. Or do you want to celebrate the good news of the day? Might as well celebrate the good news of the day. Look at that. I don't think we've seen green like that ever. Look at Bitfarm. Huh, did somebody do a video about them yesterday?
Go figure.
You're starting to push stocks now?
Yeah, our channel is definitely moving the dial.
Hey, well, I mean, if you look at it, it's the biggest growth of the day.
Bitfarms, yeah, so I don't know if everybody can see my screen on the side here. I have most of the miners listed. Bitfarms went ballistic, up 13%, and that's a bunch of days in a row, so we'll look at that chart later. Marathon was up 11%. Everything was up. Greenidge ended up 13%, but that had a wild ride today. That was up like over 25% at one point, and it was kind of bouncing around. So I don't know. And I'm pretty high volume, so I'm not sure what was going on there. But the big news for the day is hopefully everybody is happy. This is a very green day. So in the
I'm
US,
happy.
this is the last trading day before Christmas, so it's a 3-day weekend. So this is it. This is where we finished.
Do you think that, are other markets open?
I think there are other markets open. Yes.
Tomorrow? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the U.S. market is closed. For some reason, I think some of the Canadian markets are open. I'm not sure. Anybody out there in the audience from Canada or Europe, let us know if your markets are open tomorrow. We
Hello,
are closed
UK.
here in the U.S.
Manuel just thanked you for passing 5K.
I was just gonna say, thanks, Manuel.
We had it to go to 10K this month, by the way, but unfortunately somebody had to get that dreaded COVID.
I cannot be blamed for the stock market activity.
Oh, Europe's open a half day tomorrow. Oh, it looks like I'll be trading in Europe tomorrow.
I'm just
You
reading
know that?
I'm reading some of the comments. Europe's open tomorrow?
So, listen, somebody was writing down something about total miners that Marathon's going to have. That's really impressive. Did they say how many are going to be operational? That's the only question I have regarding that.
That's the
You
problem
can have,
they seem to be having.
Yeah, you can have like 250,000 of them, but if they're not plugged in and on the internet, it doesn't really matter. Right? Oof.
That is something they struggled with big time in November, as you guys know. Their numbers were down. It looks like they're recovering in December. I thought they were going to have a much bigger December, but looking at their results of their pool, it looks like they're kind of going to have an average December. It's not what I thought it was going to be, but much, much better than November.
Do you read that headline right there, Tom?
Oh, you want me to go back?
S&P 500 closed at record as investors shrug off whatever that thing's called, Omicron.
This was a green day across the board in the equities. A lot of these are back at their all-time highs. It's crazy. I was going to go to Marathon and look at that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I got a little delay looking at your message, and then I'm not looking at your screen right now.
Oh, that's all right. It's frustrating. Marathon is all filled up with all these attorney. Okay, Marathon Digital Bitcoin. Boom. Here's their. So this was today.
Oh, Canada's open too. I bought a whole bunch of Lux, so I'll still be able to trade. And I hope somebody else bought Lux. Anybody else buy Lux? At 30 cents, I go nuts. Like, yeah, I feel rich. I can buy these at 30 cents.
It's funny, I'm reading this. I don't see the number of miners that they bought. They just keep saying it's going to take them to 23.3, and they've been at 13.3 for a while now. So that's 10 exahash. Maybe I'm just missing it in this article.
No, I don't see it either. It just gives approximately, well, now consists of approximately on the shelves 199,000 Bitcoin miners.
And now they're talking early 2023. So
Right, and approximately.
Yeah, approximately 199,000. Why don't you just say 200,000?
No. Let's hopefully it gets over 100,000. We get 100,000. I think this is a great example of why I'm scared of CIFR, by the way, is seeing the results of Marathon from last month. You know what I mean?
Of who? Are you afraid of what?
Of Cypress mining.
Oh.
Because, look, this is still a business, and they still need to... They don't have any machines mining at this time, and they say they're going to be the big...
Yeah, Cypher's at 0 right now. So they said they were going to get up to 19 exahash by the end of 2022. Now Marathon's one-upping them, saying they're going to get to 23.3 exahash in early 2023. But this is what's going to happen. All these big companies are going to keep going. But, you know, especially, Core Scientific hasn't even entered the conversation yet. There's a bunch of companies that are buying machines big time. And these companies must have ramped up production on these machines because these were impossible to find 6 months ago. Nobody could buy one if they wanted to. And now they're buying them by the tens of thousands. It's incredible.
Hey, Emmanuel, I think you'll be okay with Lux, even though you got an 88. I think I'm not financial advice, but I'm thinking that's going to be, at some point in time, it'll be a $5 stock. I just don't know when.
Lux has made a lot of good moves. They're obviously a very small market cap, and, you got in, it looks like a little bit higher, but yeah, I would definitely, if it was me, I would hold that.
Or it might be smart to take a loss for the year, and I don't think it's going to. Well, you just don't know.
It's on a run right now. I wouldn't get rid of that one. This is not financial advice, but I'm telling you, I personally would not get. I'm looking for an entry point. I sold my Lux about when you bought it, and I just can't seem to get back in.
You could have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have, but I just...
Tom always, he goes, I really should get into Lux. I said, yeah, you really should. And then we hang up the phone, and then I buy it.
Yeah, George is in. He's in there.
It's so I bought all the shares the other day again.
Mark Twain is asking me if I'm pregnant? What?
You're not?
Explain, please.
Because you're so full? That could be what it is.
I don't know. Well, the answer to that is no.
Digi. All I went for. See, Tom needs to explain this to me. And maybe you guys, somebody else in the chat can explain this to me. I've always been told that Bitcoin is stored wealth. Is that correct, right?
I mean, on a long-term basis, that is what I think that's what the purpose of Bitcoin is going to be over the long term, is a store of wealth.
So if that's what it is, why does it stay in sync with the S&P?
Yeah, you and everybody else is asking that question. I don't know why it is still so tethered to the equity markets. That's
what scares me the most about Bitcoin right now. No other thing besides that. One, how it's tied together with the S&P. S&P goes up, Bitcoin goes up. S&P goes down, Bitcoin goes down. It's got to separate.
It would be nice to see. This is the perfect timing because Bitcoin is still way oversold in my opinion right now. This would be a really good time for Bitcoin to make its own run and separate itself from these equity markets. Now, obviously, the Bitcoin miners aren't going to separate themselves from Bitcoin because it's a direct play, but the equity markets in general, I mean, why does the movement of Bitcoin have anything to do with the movement of the S&P 500? And if it did, why is it a direct correlation? If anything, I would think there would be a negative correlation there. But we're stuck in this world for now, and there's a lot of money trying to keep it that way.
I love Money Lover's comment. Every marathon starts with one step.
That's a good one, and that's a huge thing to lock down another 10 exahash of machines. I don't know where they're going to get the money for that. They do have some massive liquidity. I don't think they have enough. I mean, they're at 3.2 exahash right now, and they're talking about going to 23.3 exahash. That is a monumental jump. And
Do they have enough money?
they don't have enough money to buy all. They have a massive amount of liquidity. They are not going to liquidate their Bitcoin. They got over 7,000 Bitcoin, and they don't seem to be letting any of them go. Not with the exception of CleanSpark. I really don't think any of the miners on the list that I have are selling any Bitcoin at all this year. Some of them are selling 2% or 5%, but almost everybody's holding between 95 and 100% of their Bitcoin. And that's another big factor that changes the equation. Even Plan B's stock to flow equation did not anticipate that at some point, this is 100 years before Bitcoin is supposed to have mined the last Bitcoin, but really in the last year, no new Bitcoins have gone on the market. All the miners are keeping them. So,
Well, that's not. I thought. Well, you said except CleanSpark. That's right.
Yeah, CleanSpark seems to be having a different strategy, and I don't know who's right and who's wrong because, from CleanSpark's perspective, they're saying, look, we need the money. We can either dilute our stock a bunch, which the shareholders hate, or we can trade in some of our Bitcoin. They seem to be trading about half of their Bitcoin in. And with that, they're buying machines. If they were trading their Bitcoin in and paying for operations and giving bonuses, that would be something that I would object to strenuously. But they are only selling their Bitcoin when they buy machines and they're buying machines on the spot market. They're picking them up whenever they can. And they've added a massive amount of exahash, and they have a bunch left.
Oh, right. See, Money Lover, FUD or FUMO is pushing the equity and BTC. That's why it's connected. Yeah, that's what scares me, because then that's not stored wealth. You know what I mean? Jelly bean.
Manuel, sorry, you got my shares, but you're going to win in the end. They're going to be worth a lot more.
I can't believe Marathon didn't do better today with that type of news. You know that? That should have been a double whammy.
They've had a lot of problems, but they had I think they were up 11%. What were they up? They were up 11.7%, which is a huge up for them.
I just want... Oh, good. It does sound good. Ah, good. Thanks, Michael. So here's one that I want to talk about, Tom. Any.
Oh,
do you see the price of any?
$3.54.
Do you remember it was at $9, what we said?
This was our price target right here.
Yeah, this was it. This is what we said. And he would get to $3.50. So what about these new companies that are coming on, like Iran? And there's one thing that everybody's talking about, Tom. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about it. Is that they're saying that 90% of Bitcoin are mined now?
That is actually true. So there's going to be 21 million Bitcoin, and we just, I think last week, reached 90% of the Bitcoin mined. So that's part of the original Bitcoin programming. If you've heard of the halving, and I'm sure most of you guys watching know exactly what I'm talking about, every 4 years, the reward for solving a blockchain is cut in half. So right now, it's 6.25 Bitcoin per blockchain. So, 3 years from now, that's going to get cut in half again, and then again, and then again. So as a result, the first 90%, I think, took like 12 or 13 years to mine. The last 10% is going to take over 100 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
They will be mining Bitcoin for a long time. But the other thing to pay attention to, so this is the other piece of the puzzle that I feel like is going to, all these things I think are going to catch up in 2022. We really got sideswiped in November and December, and I think a lot of things just came together to set up. It was a perfect setup for big money to just kind of take the legs out of Bitcoin and punish the retail investors. So, like it or not, Plan B is a very prominent figure in the Bitcoin world, and his prediction of 98,000 in November and 135,000 in December caught on, and it became conventional wisdom. People were locked into that, and it's funny, if he had never said that, maybe it would have happened, but because he put it out there and everybody started to trade based on that, it allowed things to get leveraged up, and it allowed the shorts to just move us backwards. So that was a setback, but I think it's a temporary setback. I feel like we're back on track. If you guys watched my video this morning, today happened exactly as I hoped it would, and we've crossed some crucial lines. So this is the third thing. Today we crossed the $49,500 line, which was, for me, that was my third confirmation that we are headed back onto the bull run. So I believe we're going to head up. I know George has a little bit of a different view in the very short term.
No, my theory is in the short term, but it's so hard because now we're going into an election year for next year, and you got to realize there's so much pressure put on the stock market to, not fall apart. You know what I mean? And that was my theory. My theory is that if it's connected to the S&P 500, which unfortunately you can't argue that it's not connected somehow or another, that I just see them screwing with us just because they can. I was thinking of the reason as I was driving home today. I was thinking of the reasons of why people could do whatever they want to do with the price of Bitcoin, just to screw with us. You know what I mean? And that's what's so sad about the whole game. Is that that's what drives me nuts about Bitcoin. Is that seller or whatever, and I know he's not selling. Saylor, is that his name?
Oh,
Saylor?
yeah,
Saylor?
Saylor, yep.
He could all of a sudden decide, whoa, boom, I'm going to drop this or do that. And it's a handful of people that can make my life, risky. So that's why actually Tom said this to me. I got to jog his memory. But we came out for next year of how we're going to allocate our investment strategy. You want to go into that, Tom? Or no, not yet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing my, it's December. So like most people, I'm doing my planning for next year. And I do trade, on this channel recently, particularly since it's been so volatile, we've spent most of our time talking about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, and I will always do that. It's such a big part of what I follow, and I spend a lot of my time on that. But I do have a few other sectors and types of stocks that I stay very current with, and I see some buying opportunities out there coming into 2022 that are just out of this world. So I'm putting some stuff together, and what I think I'm going to try to do is put a couple of portfolios together and introduce them either right before the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the year. We may even do a challenge. I don't want to go crazy, but we may do some kind of $10,000 challenge with a more diversified stock portfolio. There's stocks I just cannot believe what they are trading at on the low side, and there's stocks that just boggle my mind as to what they're trading at on the high side. So some of these things are going to break. The hard part is, particularly with stocks that run up, they can run, if they're running up and trading at an unreasonable multiple, they can do that for a long time. I've seen stocks that do that for 2, 3, 4 years. So when you jump in and try to short something, you can get burned. On the other side, if something is undervalued, you can buy the stock, and you can't really get burned because the thing is, you can just hold the stock. So even if it takes 2 years before it takes off, you've lost no money at all. As long as you're able to 5 years from now sell that stock for a lot more than you bought it for, you're missing some opportunity cost. I understand that, but on holding a long position, you can really wait it out as long as you have conviction in the stock. So that's the other thing that I preach. A lot of people I know, they don't have a lot of time to research this so deeply. So it's really hard for the average retail investor to have 15 or 20 stocks. It's better off to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 stocks that you know very well, that you have strong conviction in, because this is how big money takes all of our money. All the retail investors just don't have the conviction because they know how to bring the pain. And there's a point where no matter how much you feel about something, at some point you just feel desperate that let me just take my last few dollars out, before everything's gone. And that's usually the exact moment that's the bottom that you should be buying like crazy. But it is easier said than done. But, if you have 3 stocks that you know inside and out, you can do that. I have stocks that are way down right now that I've held. I have very strong conviction, and I keep adding to them. And just like, I had one this week that paid off inside of the Bitcoin miner sector. Bitfarms was at I think a 6 or 8 month low just a week ago. And it was so crystal clear knowing Bitfarms the way that, I study these Bitcoin mining stocks. I didn't know that it was going to be this weak. Of course, it's hard to pick a bottom. It's hard to pick a top. But I knew sometime in the next very short period of time, Bitfarms was going to double. And really, even after this giant run up, it's got a long way to go. I'm going to bring the Bitfarms chart up. A lot of you guys know that's my biggest position. I do have 5 or 6 large Bitcoin miner positions, but at the moment, Bitfarms is my largest position.
As you got dead air agree. You know what? It's funny is because that was a total setup. Tom explained it to me, and and we watched that happen in real time, guys, in this channel. And and what was so sad is that how many people on YouTube were saying that was a good buy. That's how these guys win. It's just that was a sad one.
Oh, Michael V, I hope you're talking about the fact that I went through GREE yesterday and said it's a buy. I said buy, buy, buy.
No. He's talking about when it plummeted.
Let's see.
Don't you think, or no?
Well, he said Guru Tom
goosed
GREE big time. Well, I don't know if you know. You can let me know if that's what you're talking about. But yesterday, in my Bitcoin miner update, which for some reason nobody watched, that was the least watched video I've made in a long time. So everybody missed out on GREE because yesterday I finally, and I have been waiting and waiting and waiting. And to me, I had the buy signal flash yesterday, and I put that in my video yesterday. And today, it obviously, again, I didn't know it was going to go ballistic today, but it just really clearly hit a buy zone over the last few days. So feeling good about GREE.
I was talking about the old aspect of GREE, but not the new one. But go on, keep going. Sorry.
And yeah, the other thing Michael V said is they think there's some miners secretly in China still, and I think that's probably true. I know they did everything they could. I mean, they were turning people's electricity off to make sure they couldn't mine, but it's very possible. And one of the things is they're still dumping Bitcoin in China, so it makes me believe like that's coming from somewhere.
Oh, he's talking about your great call, Tom.
Oh, thank you.
Dude, that's like 2 in a row, isn't it?
I did a Bitfarms video the day before that, so, I feel like I'm back. I was sick, all right, everybody? I was sick. Bitcoin was sick. The stock market was sick. But I think everybody's all better now.
Oh, wow. Well, I would agree with you until China just said, you know what China's just said, right? Shutting down 13 million people. They can't leave their homes. Something to do with the, do they have the Winter Olympics?
China.
Yeah, I think they do, and they're nervous.
They have the Winter Olympics.
No. Something's coming up. Some Olympics. Maybe it must be the Winter Olympics again is coming
Yeah, the
up.
Winter
I
Olympics
can't.
are coming up right now in China, in
Yes,
Beijing.
so they shut down everybody, so that they would slow the spread of the COVID. Of the COVID.
You know,
Oh,
it's
hang on. What is this Rig Z ETF?
that is an ETF that it's got a lot of it's a Bitcoin equity ETF. It's got pretty much all the big Bitcoin miners in it, but it also has a lot of how do you say it? Not direct plays, but some secondary plays. It's got a lot of the companies that hold a bunch of Bitcoin. I think it's got Nvidia in there because they make chips, and so it's a Bitcoin / crypto ETF. It's pretty small. Did somebody ask about that in the
Chat?
in the chat?
Yeah. What do you think about it?
Matthew,
And it says,
I'm not sure if you're the. I'm not. Somebody talked to me about this in the Discord. It might have been you, Matthew. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I am only familiar with that because they actually reached out to our channel, and we've been talking about doing a video together. So I had a bunch of talks with them right before I got sick, and we really didn't come to a decision on what we were going to do, but that's how that got on the map for me. Those guys kind of reached out to us and said, "Hey, let's just talk together and let me introduce, we'll introduce our ETF on your channel." And I did a bunch of looking into it, and I mean, it is small, but I like what I see. My one problem with that, and really it's probably a safer thing, it's much more diversified than just straight up. Even if you spread your risk across Bitcoin miners, they've got enough other non-Bitcoin miners in there that are Bitcoin related plays that it's probably safer play. I like it. I actually have not bought any of it yet, but I like what I see there. Right now, the Bitcoin miners are so oversold even still. We just had a nice little run up, and you'll see on my screen, I just did the math. This is from Monday to Thursday. Bitfarms was up 20%. So that's a nice run up. But the thing is, if I zoom out a little bit, like that's November 10th. So that's less than a month and a half ago. Now that was, I think the 9th or 10th is the day that Bitcoin hit its all-time high. But if you look from where we are, to go back to that point, that's still 60% upside. And I think the miners are going to run past these highs sooner than later. So again, I have to say it's not financial advice, but that's what I believe. So I think there's some very nice upside left on Bitfarms. I will tell everybody, when things got really bad with Bitfarms, I bought some January options, which are very short-term options. And so today they got up over 100%, and I did sell them today. So that is some of the ways that I try to just get, as we get beat down so badly. So that's one of the ways I try to make back some of the money, is just to do some short-term options and get in and out at the right time. So fortunately, I was able to do that, and I reduced my Bitfarm. But even with those sold, Bitfarm is my biggest position, and I will tell everybody, DigiHost is my second biggest position right now, and that is a very small miner. A lot of people don't know a lot about that, but that has had a monster run this week, and I did not sell any of it. It was up, one day it was up 21% in a day. Let's see, today it was up, it had a nice day, everything had a nice day today, but today it was up 6.8%. So, I mean, that
I gotta look at mine. Now I gotta look at mine. I got February.
That had a killer week.
How about that? That thing went up. It went up. I forgot. I can't say dollars, but it went up and down. It's insane. Let's see. It went. It doesn't say the percentage. It went up, but it went up 10. Well, it went up a lot today. Um, it went up 50 cents. 218 $5 calls. I bought them at 80 cents, and they are $1.48 right now. And the only reason why I know is because we were keeping track of that one for some reason. That was the one.
So on DigiHost, from the low on Monday to the close today, it was up almost 54%.
Oh, you know what? And I have to tell you something, because I always forget to tell people this. You know, Tom, you were the one that taught me this, and that was a great example of the gentleman who bought Lux at 88 cents.
Yes.
Explain to me, you know how you always taught me were about averaging in and stuff like that?
Dollar
Can you
cost
explain?
averaging, yes.
Right.
So, sorry if this is a review for some of you, but this is a big piece of what I do with all my long-term holdings. If you buy in at 88 cents, and you got to be judicious, because the thing that can happen is, you buy in at 88 cents and it goes to 84 cents, it's not time to buy some more yet. But every time it goes down 10 or 15%, I add. I don't double my position, but I add to my position and I add to my position, because a lot of these stocks, again, even if you pick the best stock in the world, this is outside of our control. A great stock performing well can go down for weeks or months. So that's where you have to have that conviction. That's when you buy in again at 65 cents, you buy in at 50 cents, you buy in again at, 38 cents. And it did get all the way down to that point. So now all of a sudden, instead of your cost basis being 88 cents, maybe you've brought it down to 55 cents. And it's a lot quicker to break even. I try to do that on a hyper scale with these short-term options. So obviously they come and go, but it's the same principle. So when that's the other thing you can do is, and in something like Lux doesn't trade options, but on some of these bigger ones, when you see that they're grossly oversold, I buy options that a lot of times that are 30 days or less out if I'm convinced that we're about to turn the corner. But I like the 60 to 90 day options a lot better. It gives you some amount of time for a course correction. So even 60 days is pretty short. But go ahead, George.
I got two things to throw out to the chat. One, what is in the stock, any stock, what is the most overvalued stock, do you guys think? And then two, in Bitcoin or anything, what do you think is the least valued stock? Least value, and what's the most? Because I'm gonna whatever.
When you say the least value, what do you mean?
Like, low is like
the most undervalued
value. Yeah, most undervalued stock that's going to take off and make. I always like getting other people's opinions, so I can look at them, and because here's what's great about this, and this is why this channel needs to grow and get bigger, is because when we work together as a team, and then we I'm not saying we're not a pump and dumper. We want to follow true metrics of what we should do. And we can't, I was saying to Tom, I'm like, Tom, why don't you go to this sector? Tom, why don't you go? And he's like, dude, I just don't have the time.
It's hard. You can't, nobody, I don't care what they say, there's nobody that has enough time to know every single sector inside and out. I don't care how long they've been doing this, because the thing is, these things change very quickly. Like, look at the Bitcoin mining sector. If you walked away from this for 5 weeks, you'd come back and you'd be lost. So, and that's just one tiny sector. This is, just so you guys know, and you probably know, this is a very, very tiny sector. I think that it's going to get bigger and bigger, and I think some of these companies are going to be, mid-cap companies in 5 years. But at the moment, all of them put together are, only, I don't think they're $20 billion, every single one of them added up together. So there's literally many stocks on the stock market that have zero revenue and haven't even started doing business. And those stocks have a bigger market cap than the entire Bitcoin mining sector in total. Revvion pops to mind right away. But there's several of them.
You still? I'm just curious to like to see what people are thinking, and maybe there's something we're overlooking that they're like, hey, look at this. You know what I mean? Hey, look at that.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.
Where do you think? And then the other thing is, where do people think Bitcoin's going? Are we going to keep going up? It was funny. I was listening to somebody recently, and they're like, wow, it looks like, the death cross, and we're going down from here. Ever since that person said it. So I hate that when you're, opposite, but sometimes that happens.
Well, everybody jumped on this death cross thing, and here's the thing. There's hundreds of indicators. So when people get fixated on just one, that's how you lose money. You've got to be looking at, I have maybe 15 indicators that I try to look at in the aggregate. Some I think are more important than others, but I try to look at, a broad spectrum, because if you look at just one thing, you can get misled and burned. Even if you've got an indicator that's been right, let's say it's been right 5 times in a row over the last 6 or 8 months, you might feel like, you know what? This one's just right. It's invincible. Well, all these are right until they're wrong. And when they're wrong, you can get crushed. So, and it's hard enough. I mean, with all the indicators, and again, I do this all day. With all the indicators that I look at and all the studying I put into this, you guys see, sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. I mean, it's just, nobody can tell the future. I always say I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, that's the truth. I can put the pieces of the puzzle together as best I can. A lot of times over longer periods of time, I feel like, it works out in my favor. But on any given day or any given week, like, on December 3rd, who knew there was going to be a monster flash crash that changed the entire Bitfarm, or the entire Bitcoin, the entire landscape for a month?
Who knew?
You don't know. You just don't know. So, there was some indicators that we were overbought, but I didn't see any indicators that we were going to crash $15,000. So, and right now, as I look at everything, we still look like we're oversold. So I believe we're at the beginning of this rally, and it doesn't mean it's going up in a straight line, because as you guys know, there's healthy pullbacks all the time. But, I hate to call, I've been saying for a week, I hate to call the bottom, but I'm calling the bottom. I think that was it, and we've gone. You guys can crush me next Friday if I'm wrong, but I feel pretty strongly. I mean, everything I'm looking, almost everything. There's one or two things, that make me nervous, but the vast majority of what I'm looking at tells me we've bottomed out, and at worst, we're going to go sideways. And you guys know we were in, let me go back to this. We were in a very tight, that's not it. So I put a box around this right here. This is December 20th to December 23rd. So that's 4 days. This is a $1,000 range right here. That is ridiculously small for Bitcoin. So, we can go sideways. But as we sat here and went sideways and up and down and consolidated, a lot of the indicators were showing that we were getting healthier and healthier. So that's what I try to look at. Who knows if it was going to be this time that we broke out or this time that we broke out. But we have now clearly, this is for me the third breakout that we've had in 3 days. So there's 3 different things that I was looking for. All 3 of them have happened. So that's why I'm, and there's no guaranteeing that I'm right by any means. I could get crushed. But because we did all 3 of those things, the last one of which I said in this morning's video is that we need to cross this $49,500 line and stay and have a few 4-hour candles stay above that. So you can see we ran through this line. I mean, this turned out to be no resistance at all. and we're leveled off, over 1,000. Well, let's see, 49.4. So yeah, over $1,000 above that is where we seem to be leveled off. And we've been trading, we're trading between 50,800 and 51,200 over the last several hours. So hopefully that holds. We don't know. We could go back and So my most important thing right now, everybody's saying, are we going to 53? Are we going to 56? Are we going to 60? The most important thing that I'm looking at is this line right here. We have a 3-day weekend, and I really want this line to hold. So even if we run down and test this, if this can hold and we bounce off of it, that will be another confirmation for me that we are heading in the right direction. What would be even better, just from a psychological standpoint, it would really be even better if we could stay above 50,000, because that's a big psychological number. So in the short term, those are the things that I'm looking at big time. I do think we stand a good chance of running up. It looks to me like the next, on my original chart that I haven't looked at since the flash crash, I've switched charts because everything's changed so fundamentally. Those lines weren't really in play. But I will tell you, with the run-up we had today, we are back on my old chart. Starting on Monday, I'll be using my old chart that I used for months and months. It was getting crowded. It's got 100 lines on it, so maybe I'll clean it up a little bit. But we seem to be back inside of that chart and on track. So my next line on that chart looks like there's some resistance. There's some minor resistance at 51,000, and then I'm looking at 53,700. So those are my numbers that I'm looking at over the weekend. I want to make sure we stay above 49,500. That's to confirm that we stay inside of what I think is the beginning of this bull run. And then on the upside, I think we stand a shot at that 53,700 this weekend. But then again, obviously, you've seen days and days of consolidation. So even that would be very healthy. If we sat here and went sideways somewhere in the 51,000 range, I would not mind that all of the 3-day weekend. That would be a healthy thing for us.
I can just tell you one thing. People didn't even think we'd be sitting at $50,000 right now.
Anthony, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Hopefully you made some money off of that.
I think that people still thought we'd be in the 40s, and I think a lot of people thought we'd be in the low 40s, which I think there's just too many people that have bought into Bitcoin for it to be that low.
Well, and that's part of one of the things that I follow is the fear and greed index, and that is an excellent indicator. We were in extreme fear for a period of time, and that's when people start talking about, oh, we're going to 40,000, we're going to 30,000, we're going to 20,000. I heard some people saying, when you start to hear that talk, that's almost George is raising his hand. He was one of those people. When you start to hear that kind of talk, it's scary, especially since, if you're on YouTube, I have very little time left to watch a lot of YouTube. I used to watch a lot of people on YouTube, and I try to still watch a few people, but it's hard for me. But I will tell you what I've always noticed, everybody starts to say the same thing. It's like they're talking with the same voice. Oh, we're going to this. Just like when Plan B put their numbers out. Oh, we're going to 98,000 in November. That became like a calling card for Bitcoin, and it was absolutely the worst thing that could have happened.
I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you, Tom, and there's only really one reason. You ready?
Absolutely.
Because it's still connected to the S&P 500. If it wasn't connected, I would agree. I would concur with you 100%. I'd be like, Tom, you're right on that. I agree with you 100%. But because it is something, we just basically hit a new record today in the S&P.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what my answer to that is, because it's what I just said a few minutes ago. That is one indicator. And no, you weren't gone. It's just we were talking about a different concept, but it applies to the same thing. Those two things seem to be correlated, and they have seemed to be correlated for a while now. But that is one indicator. There are so many different indicators that I'm not letting that one. And you're right, they're definitely correlated, but that correlation is going to be right until it's wrong. And if there's one thing I can tell you, I don't know what that day is, but at some point, Bitcoin and the equities are going to part ways, never to cross paths again. So,
Right,
you know,
but my thing is this, is that, it's still only so many people that have a big hold in Bitcoin. You agree or disagree?
oh yeah, definitely.
So
We're
with that
still
being
very
said,
early in Bitcoin.
there should be a new, the fear and greed. It should be called the pain index. How much pain can we inflict? And that's what I'm worried about.
And we've seen that time and time again. And this flash crash on December 3rd is a perfect example of that. That's like I was saying, like who saw that coming?
No, nobody.
And that was, and I think it was what we talked about. It was set up. Everybody, everywhere was playing this as if November and December, the other thing is, November is the best month in this cycle, in this year, November is the best month by far. Everybody's expectations going into November were sky high. So the fact that they took us out on December 3rd, in retrospect, I didn't see it coming, but in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, you picked probably the best time to be in the hospital.
I know. There was a few days I didn't even have my phone or anything. I couldn't make a trade. I couldn't do anything. But probably
That
wouldn't have
is
made much of a difference.
So, did you read what Manuel said? Hey, Tom, somebody asked, why talk about other miners when Marathon dominates the market? First thought I had, put all eggs in one basket. Your thoughts? Tom taught me this, by the way. Go ahead.
The first thing is I think it's super dangerous to put all your eggs in one basket. So I have multiple answers to that question. If you put all your eggs in one basket, you have to understand that when you're in one stock, anything can happen. And actually with Marathon, we've seen a few things happen. They had the first one was they got some subpoenas that they had to respond to. Now, I will tell you, for me personally, I did not think that was a big deal. But the market destroyed them on that news. So I think everybody's over that and they've put it into perspective. But the bigger thing was November's results for them were a nightmare. So they can say, we have 3 exahash. They're at 3.2 exahash. They now have 23.3 exahash ordered. But the fact is, Riot, Hut 8, Bitfarms, Argo blockchain, almost every miner, Hive by far, almost every single miner mined somewhere between more and a lot more Bitcoin than Marathon did in the month of November. So, you have an event like that, now that's already strike one. So, the next time that happens, the market's going to have an even bigger reaction to that. Now, if it never happens, then great, and that's what I hope for them. Marathon's the first Bitcoin miner I ever bought, and I made a lot of money on them. So, I like Marathon as a company, but I do think they bit off an awful lot. And one thing that they did different than everybody else, they're running their own pool. And the problem is at 3 exahash, and as I'm watching their pool, even though they have 3.2 exahash worth of machines, they are almost never running that exahash level. They are below that. There are days they mine 0 Bitcoin still. They had a day where they mined 9 Bitcoin. They had another day, a few days later, where they mined 0. And the problem is when you're at such a small pool, Foundry USA pool is more than 10 times their size. So they get the law of averages. They tend to have a similar amount of mining every single day. When you're this small, you can just straight up get unlucky. In addition to the fact that they have trouble keeping all their machines up and running, they can get unlucky. Having said that, they could also get lucky. But I would rather see them, when they're at 23 exahash 15 months from now, then they're going to be a big mining pool. And I think they're going to have very consistent results over time. So, as time goes by, that's probably going to be a better and better investment. And I'll tell you, pretty much if you see a Bitcoin miner over here, it's a miner that I think is worth investing in. Now, obviously, to a different extent, I do have them ranked. But, Marathon there's no question, well, there's not no question, but I think it is most likely that Marathon will have a big run-up in the next 12 months. But so will a lot of these others. And if you just do a straight up calculation from, there's 3 or 4 different ways. The very simplest is market cap versus hash rate. And I do a market cap efficiency. I do a hash rate efficiency as well, because, the numbers aren't, if you've got if one company has 2 exahash and the other has 1.8, if the company with 1.8 exahash is mining more Bitcoin, then their efficiency level is higher. So you got to look at that too. So there's a million ways to dissect these things. But again, to circle back around to this, a very long answer to the question, I would much rather have, there's 3 or 4 Bitcoin miners that are still drastically undervalued. So I would rather spread that risk around 3, 4, 5 of these. Even 3 is a lot better than 1, because if something goes wrong with 1, you've got the other 2. I have more time, so I have a little bit more than that. But I have 5 big positions and then some smaller positions. So, and that allows me to spread the risk. And I'll also tell you, on different days, it helps on a day-to-day basis. Today was great for me because Bitfarm was up 13.7%. The other day, a lot of my stocks underperformed, but DigiHost was up 21%. So, it all averages out over time, but I'm much more comfortable spreading my risk. And if I were to put all of my eggs in one basket, which I would never do, Marathon to me, even though I like what they're doing and I think it's going to work out in the long run, they are not in my top 5 from a valuation standpoint, because their market cap is by far the largest out of all of these. So their market cap per exahash is extremely high. What do you guys think? Let me in the comments know if you guys agree that, who would you do? Would you put all your eggs in one basket? And if you did, who would you do it with?
By the way, I think you short Marathon right now. Can I talk about shorting on this channel?
That's allowed.
Wolf.
I feel like you're in the... Oh, there you go. You were in the dark.
I'm always in the dark. Yeah, what's up with Wolf?
What's up? What's down? This is what happens when these things come onto the exchanges. If you remember, the greatest example of this was GREE. The market has a hard time the first few days with these, and they jump all over the place. GREE was at $60 on its first day trading. Within 3-4 days, it corrected itself, and it's even made some major corrections since then. Now it's on the upswing, and I think it's gotten healthy. But, if you forget bought, the poor people that own support.com, they just got their shares converted to GREE, and they got, in one day, they got wiped out.
Well, there's somebody was bragging about buying Marathon at $2. I'd be all in at Marathon at $2 too. I would never think about selling. I'd just sit back and laugh at everybody else.
Well, I will tell you, I did buy Marathon at around $2, but I sold it a long time ago. So I did not get to take a run from $2 to $80. That would have been amazing. I made some good money on it, but I got out way before it hit its high.
I think Blue Dope wins for the best strategy. He says he'll be a millionaire at 208. He bought it at $2. Isn't that great? That's awesome. That's why I love...
Yeah, if you're in at $2, man, then all this is just background noise, because over the long term, yeah, if you have a 3 to 5 year horizon, Marathon's an outstanding investment in my opinion, for sure.
Would you sell out of the money options on it?
Out of the money calls?
Yeah. Options. I just said options. So.
Yes. A lot of times, I have to decide between selling calls and puts, because the problem is when we get to this point right here where we're starting a potential bull run, which I believe we are, I don't want to miss. Like, let's say I had sold, let's say I sold $5 options on Bitfarms because it was at $4.40. Well, I would have lost big time. So, when things are on the up, I'd rather sell a put than a call. So, when we do some of that, George, you and I do some call selling and put selling, but you got to be very careful because.
No, I'm talking about like way out of the money. You know what I mean? Like, I just did some way out of the money, Apple's at 105 puts. Because I think Apple's going to go down.
If you see a bargain, some of those are, even if you want to call them lottery tickets, the upside can be enormous. So if you got a feeling and you can do it for a little bit of money, I would rather buy a call on something I don't own or a put if I think it's going down on the chance that, I can make the upside. I don't like to cut my upside by selling calls on things that I own. That doesn't mean I don't ever do it. If we're in a sideways period, like the last month was a great time to sell calls because things were just totally sideways in the Bitcoin miner world.
What is other fees for NASDA? I don't know what that means. Never heard of that, Manuel. And what other NASDA? I don't know what that is. That was a great thing.
He made me saying NASDAQ.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, if you're in Canada, you might as well trade them in Canada.
Dude, I haven't looked at the exchange rate in a long time. What is it right now?
I don't know. It's been between like 80 and 83 cents.
Okay. I thought maybe there's another tax or something like that. 78 cents. So it stayed pretty the same. It hasn't really moved at all. I'm in shock with that, honestly.
What is it
I
at?
would think 78 cents.
Oh, okay. All right.
So.
Yeah, JM is talking about the immersion technology, and everything that I'm hearing about that is that it's going to make those machines maybe even up to 20% more efficient than the maximum. So
oh, really?
That's a big difference. You're able to overclock and get extra computing power out of them with this immersion cooling. So a lot of these, in Canada, it really almost doesn't make sense to invest in that infrastructure because you have free cooling for a lot of the year, and you can't beat free. So I don't know
why are puts more expensive. We go through this dilemma all the time, by the way.
Why are puts more expensive?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times, it's funny because George and I just had this conversation. There have been times where, and especially with things like Bitfarm, where the spread is large. Bitfarm doesn't have a $3 put and a $4 put and a $5 put. They have a $2.50 put and a $5 put. So when you're at $5 with Bitcoin, you're between a rock and a hard place because buying a put that close to in the money is very expensive. So the last several times that I went to buy some protection and puts on Bitfarms, I either didn't buy them at all because they were too expensive, or one time I actually sold them instead of bought them because the premium was so big. It's like, with that kind of premium, I'll sell them and I feel safe. So it's hard. It's hard to get protection on these Bitcoin miners. The bigger ones, Riot and Marathon and now Hut, all these guys have a lot more options. They have weekly options. They have smaller intervals in between their options. So it's easier to put protection on those three in specific. Some of these other ones either have not enough options, and some of them have none. DigiHost is my second biggest position. They don't even have options, so there's no protection on that.
Another Bitcoin mining. Did you see this? Another one. Nile. It's called BitNile Holdings. Somebody just who put that in there?
Is
This
that
is
the
not
one
financial.
that's splitting? It's a company and it's splitting into two. And I got to refresh my memory. I looked at this before I was sick, but yes. And I can't remember the details. So I'll refresh my memory on that. But they're coming. I think that's a part of a split that's happening with a company. Let me know if I'm right on that one.
Well, I'm reading where they said they're acquiring 4 Marriott and Hilton hotels. 4 of them. I don't know what in the world for $69 million. And they have a market cap of 116.
116 million?
Yeah, 116 million. I had 170 Apple calls. Well, hopefully you got them cheap. Hopefully you got them super cheap. Dude, you realize this was a Christmas miracle, what just happened to Bitcoin.
Yeah, today was a surprise to me. If you look at, and it's funny because I finished my video this morning, and by the time it was edited and uploaded, the thing I talked about that I hoped would happen had already long since happened. And it went way past where I was expecting. My hope for today, my third confirmation for the bull run was crossing above the $49,500 level and staying above that until the end of the day. Well, we destroyed that. I didn't see this coming. So that's the thing about this. Like, Bitcoin can run. You know, it sat there and went sideways for this whole giant rectangle right here. You know, it was like it did nothing, and then bang, it just went crazy. So
well, and I'm not
happens.
gonna toot my horn, but I called it, and I actually said it to you yesterday. I just missed it by 1 day.
Well, you missed it by a half a day. George said after the market closes on Thursday, Bitcoin's going through the roof. So fortunately for us, it happened. Let's see. It looks like starting around 11 or 11:30, it went ballistic. And I hope everybody made a lot of money today. So, you know, this was a very green day.
You were, Tom, I can't believe it, but you were right about that. Thanks, financial advice guy. You were right exactly what about that company. Is that the company that's going to split?
I got to refresh my memory. I did read all about that, but honestly, there were 3 or 4 companies I researched right before I got sick, and I don't want to get into it, but I got sidelined big time. So, you know, I had some catching up to do when I got back. But I will look into that, and I'd like to do a video on that. What I plan on doing over the next week is 3 or 4 videos on companies that are new that we haven't talked about, and I know they're not going to be popular videos, so you know, a lot of people won't watch them, so I appreciate if any of you guys would go on and watch those. But I want to start the conversation on some of these because, you know, specifically Core Scientific is a monster. And, you know, they're going public via a SPAC right now, and the SPAC is priced very close to $10. So I want to run the numbers on that. You know, obviously for as long as it's a SPAC, if you buy it near $10, you're very safe. But what's going to happen when it converts? So I need to do the math on that conversion and make sure that, you know, its market cap is going to be reasonable. But I will tell you, they're giant. There's some big guys coming into this thing.
It's really insane, isn't it? So, what do you think the best value right now for a Bitcoin company is right now? Who's the best undervalued? Who's going to make the most money, you think, right now?
Who's the most undervalued right now?
Undervalued, yep.
You know, it changed a little bit because my number 1 and number 2 had a monster week this week.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Digihost, and again, some people aren't, you know, it was under $100 million market cap. It got down to about $90 million market cap, and a lot of people are not comfortable trading in stuff that small. And I don't usually trade in stuff that small, but their fundamentals are so unbelievably strong. As I have a pretty extensive spreadsheet that I have 3 different numbers that I bring for each company. And for the first time ever, DigiHost ranked first in all three of those. So to me, coming into this week, it was so blatantly the most undervalued of all the Bitcoin miners. Now, it had a huge run up this week, so some of that has corrected, but I would still say it's in a great, great position. Bitfarms is in a great position. I actually don't have my position built out in HUT. I had taken profits a while back, and I do think it's time to get back into that because I think there's a lot of upside there. Hive, I'm going to sit here and end up reading the whole list. But
right. I was going to say CleanSpark.
And thank you. That was the last one I was just going to say. At this point, it's possible they've moved into first place because they were up 5.7% today and they had some green days this week. But in proportion to the other Bitcoin miners, they underperformed. I would say they were the most underperforming miner on the week this week.
That's a funny question. Michael V. You want to read Michael V's question?
How long have you two guys known each other, and how long has George been your sidekick? That's funny. Well, if you knew us, you would know that George is not my sidekick.
What's funny is I think Tom's my sidekick.
And we got another close. The answer is George and I have known each other forever. We were friends in high school. And we have another friend that we're very close with. And the three of us, are like brothers. We've been that way for 30 years. So
even though I don't get invited to Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving. But
that's because I never hosted at my house.
Yeah. The problem was the third person, the other Tom, he'll eat the whole house out of all the food. I mean, the guy's huge.
So I'm about 6'2", 230, and I have always been called Little Tom because our other friend is, well, unfortunately, he's probably a little overweight right now, but he's like 6'8". I mean, he was pushing 400.
Yeah, he still is. But he's really strong too. Don't get me wrong, he's really strong.
George is actually, he won't say anything himself, but George is actually super. George, I don't know if you guys can tell when he sits down, but he's about 6'4", 275, and he works out like an animal. You got 300 now?
300, yeah. Oh, yeah, I put on a ton of muscle.
I feel bad because we all worked out together for years and years, and I have been slacking off, so those guys were always stronger than me, but I used to be in the ballpark, but George can put 3 plates on either side and just pump out reps on the bench. It's ridiculous. And, and Tom's the same way, so I can't compete with that. Anyway, we've been friends forever is the answer.
So the whole reason we did this, and Tom and I did this, was because, look at these guys beat us up left and right. The hedge fund managers, they win all the time. And I have never made money until this year in the stock market. I've always just been like, it's taboo. And that wealth comes from the stock market. I mean, it just does. That's where wealth comes from. It comes from 2 places, real estate and the stock market. And we think that real estate is going to change here in the next, 24 hours. I mean, it's just going to change in the next, few months. It might still do good next year, but we don't think it's going to do good long term. And so what we figured was we would do something where just everyday people could take and invest money and make a decent return. I mean, I'm mad at myself, and I'm at I'm like at 30. I'm at like 35 or 40%. But the problem is I was up almost 100% at one point in time this year. And then November happened, and it was just we were doing really, really good, and it just life happens, and so that's the whole reason we did this was so that people could make money. And we could all collaborate together so that we're trying to put good out in the world in this crazy world that we live in.
And we got a bunch of other stuff that George does in other arenas, but I'm the financial piece of this, the equities and trading. So, and that's just to reiterate. I mean, that's why we're doing this. We are hoping, obviously, we hope to make money ourselves, but I try to be very consistent on the channel, and I try to just tell it like it is. For those of you who watch me and are subscribers, this is not a hype channel. I try to really dig into this stuff and figure out what's going on. I would say I'm I don't know if conservative is the right word, but I'm very
Ultra.
realistic about this.
Ultra conservative. Because I was thinking of 5 companies we could have shorted that you wouldn't let me. I just don't like shorting.
I'm terrified of shorting, so everybody should know that is a weakness of mine. I am just terrified of shorting. And I've had stocks. I'll tell you one right now. Live Nation, I wanted to short that at $70, and it's at like $115 now. So I would have got destroyed. And I stand by my short. It was way overvalued at $70, in my opinion. And now it's just one of the most overvalued stocks in the stock market. In my opinion, this is not financial advice.
What is the ticker on Live Nation?
LYV or something like that. Here.
Live Nation Entertainment. It's at 118 now.
LYV. Yeah, this thing's at $118. It's double almost. Well, not quite, but it's almost double what it was pre-COVID. Now, you tell me how a company that sponsors live events is worth double what it was before all this happened. Their revenue was down over 90% last year, and their stock was up. And they lost more money in 2020 than they made in the 15 years all put together before that. So I don't want to go off on a tangent, but if I was
They're worth 26. Think about this. They're worth 26.6 billion. That's their cap rate, Tom.
That's more than every Bitcoin miner put together.
I know, that's insane. So this is why I love Bitcoin miners. Right here.
Well, and that won't be true because 5 years from now, we're going to look at Bitcoin miners and go, wow, this is no longer a $18 billion sector. It's a $180 billion sector.
Wow.
And, you know, that's going to take a while, but I think that's where it's going. But I look at companies like this, and I just can't make sense out of it. But I also can't bring myself to short it because, I mean, if you look, like this was, you know, this was January of 2020. Oh, boy, we just went into the... This one's too complicated for me. I like looking at this simple one. This was right before COVID, if we're allowed to say that on YouTube. And, you know, it was at $68. It's at $118 now. Is anybody familiar with this company? Does anybody buy or sell or trade this thing? So this is why I'm terrified to short. And it is a piece of the puzzle that I do miss. But I just feel like the risk is so gigantic. If I was going to short, I would have to buy some calls as protection because, you know, I would have got destroyed on this. I wanted to short this. I mean, it got down to 48, but I wanted to short it up somewhere around here, up at about 56. And then again at around here, I looked at it and I said, wow, this is where I got really convinced. I said 73, that's its all-time high in the history of the company. And they're losing more money than they can count. And what's happened since then? They're up radically.
Are they a triple? Can you, like, you know what I mean? Is it considered a good stock where you can do like the, you know, like 30% of your equity or whatever it's called?
Oh, yes. Yeah, with a $26 billion market cap, they're not going to restrict your margin.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is yeah, unfortunately, most of the stocks that I trade in, the margin is restricted big time, the entire Bitcoin mining sector, and I trade a lot of small EV companies. So, if you guys could just add some comments right now, how many of you guys follow the EV sector or any of the stocks in the EV sector? And I don't well, I follow them all, but I have a basket of them that I trade that are very small cap. And to me, I think there's a 2022 opportunity in the ultra small cap EV companies that have been beaten down. A lot of them are down 70, 80, 90%. And they shouldn't be. You know, while some of these other companies are trading at $80 billion, I got companies at $60 million market caps. So, I feel like there's some huge upside. So that is one of the portfolios I'm going to put together, is some small cap EV stocks.
Just so you know, your tattoo chef's at 1.3 billion.
I know. I'm still not ready to do a tattooed chef video. I need to see another quarter out of them. I believe they're going to go sideways for another 3 to 6 months. So I could be wrong, and if the entire market has a run and things rotate back into the small cap high growth, I still like the stock. I love that company. I think they're doing all the right things. The thing is, it's just taking a little bit longer than they expected. They actually just had big news. I think yesterday or the day before, they bought a company that makes nutrition bars. So they're gonna, when they buy companies, the beauty of them is when they buy companies, they're gonna rebrand all that, and it's all gonna be Tattooed Chef. So you're gonna see Tattooed Chef in at the checkout stand, in the frozen foods, in the ambient food section. So I love, I just did some research on them yesterday, so I'm a little bit fluent right now. They've got great stuff going on, but I'm not ready to jump back into that yet. But I wouldn't blame anybody if they did. And from a buy and hold standpoint, mainly the reason is I'm allocating so much of my money to the Bitcoin miners because I think they're going to run. I'm too heavy in the Bitcoin miners, but I'm comfortable with it for now.
Somebody wrote charge point in there. There's 6.3 billion.
Actually, who wrote that? Because, oh, wow.
Edward.
You guys are jumping. So, Edward, I think you're right. I was going to do a video. We're doing this live stream instead. I was going to do a charge point video tonight. So, I will probably do one over the holiday weekend. I think that is a huge buy right now. It doesn't have the typical profile of the companies that I buy, just as far as, price to sales and those kind of things. Ordinarily, I would consider it ahead of itself. But in that sector, what's happened to ChargePoint is crazy. And so that's going to be in my basket. So, spoiler alert, good call, Edward.
We missed a whole bunch of stuff. You want to go through all this stuff and then we can call it?
Yeah, I just want to answer, this is not financial advice. He said, Romeo is a great long-term hold. In my opinion, I'll buy any dips. That is my biggest holding outside of the Bitcoin miners. So I 100% agree with you on that. That company is so undervalued. It's so beaten down. And they are about to have a big year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love Elon Musk. You got to admit, the guy is just the smartest person on earth. I mean, he really is. I mean, I don't know why anybody... He's very solid. He's a very solid individual. And that took years for me to understand, by the way. That didn't just come. I wasn't a big fan of him in the beginning. But I will tell you what, now I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk.
I like a lot of what he said recently, but I will tell you, I will forever hold a little bit of a grudge. He initially pumped Bitcoin up to 40,000, and then he absolutely, I'm sorry, and I would debate it live with him, he absolutely intentionally said 2 or 3 things that he knew was not true in order to tank Bitcoin. And I didn't like that at all. And, it was probably self-serving. He probably made a fortune on it, but...
Didn't do anything wrong. I mean, just,
Hey, he's allowed to say whatever he wants, but I do not... I'm not going to sit here and believe that he bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin and did not know that, Bitcoin used a lot of energy and that was an issue and that he was shocked to find that out and he reversed his position on Bitcoin in the middle. There's, if you believe that, I live in Florida. I got some really good swampland I could sell you cheap.
And you know what's sad is that we think that quarter, the only reason he made money was because of Bitcoin. And no No one cared to bring those two together.
Yeah.
No one cared. Is this another? Man, Tom, you're slipping on these. There's all these new Bitcoin companies.
KULR, I don't know. So I'll pull them up right now and maybe
I'll put it on the list for us.
Oops. What? Am I spelling this wrong?
How did they get beat up today?
KULR, sorry.
316 million.
So this is a small cap. Let's just do their little quick profile. Oh, okay. So yeah. I am not familiar with these guys at all, but this is similar to some other companies that I do invest in. And they're even getting into 5G. They got their hands in some pretty hot stuff. So
yeah, I have a friend that made just a gazillion dollars off of Tesla. I mean, a gazillion. I mean, it's insane. Some of these guys that I know, just because Tesla's just been so nuts the last few years, it's been a very solid play.
Those people that had conviction, and this goes back to having conviction, those people that had conviction in Tesla 3 or 4 years ago on not that much money, they got rich. So that's one of the biggest run-ups in a stock I've ever seen by far in that short period of time. So, you know, I think there's a lot of big YouTubers that actually made a lot of their money sitting in Tesla. And good for them, because you know what? It was a tough call for a few years. But a lot of people stuck with it and they made a lot of money.
But you know what? I mean, you could tell me tomorrow that Tesla went up $400 or down $400 and I wouldn't be in shock. Either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, because you just don't know. You don't know if it's, you know, I mean, I heard he's getting into cell phones. I heard that's the next big thing. And he's going to wreck the insurance industry. He is going to destroy the insurance industry because his cars don't really crash unless somebody run into them or, you know, they miss a truck or something. But you know what I mean? The loss ratio on that, I mean, the whole insurance industry is going to be disturbed because of Tesla. And people don't even know what's coming. That's what's so funny. You know what? And I'll tell you, I can't tell you the next thing I want to tell you, but I'm just going to tell you blockchain technology next year at this time will have changed the way we do business in the United States. I'm telling you, if you don't know crypto, and you guys, I mean, everybody here probably knows crypto, but man, next year is going to be such an amazing year for crypto. I mean, it's just going to be insane because there's so many applications. I will let you know that Tom and I are working on an application right now with our own coin, but I'm one of those direct to market people. I'm not one of these meme coins, you know, like Shiba.
Yeah, our coin has a use. This is not a useless token. So I like PGO Pal 6. That's a great story. He bought a Tesla with the money that he made on Tesla.
That is awesome.
He or she, I'm not sure. So that's a great story.
That is. Well, hey, everybody, have a Merry Christmas. It's going to be a lot merrier since we had a really good day today.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody. I'm sure hopefully everybody had a very great day in their portfolio. Merry Christmas in advance. I will be doing videos over the weekend, but Merry Christmas on the live stream in advance.
Somebody said something about Sunday night. Do you want to try to do that again with options?
Oh, do a Sunday night option?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. If you want to do a live stream Sunday night?
Yeah, let's do Sunday night. You want to do like 7:38? That seems to work the best.
Yeah, we'll probably keep it shorter than this one, but yes, we'll do a live stream Sunday night, and we'll have some stuff ready for the week.
All right, perfect. Merry Christmas, everyone, and we'll talk to you Sunday night if you're here.
Enjoy your holidays. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all your support. And we'll see
See
you
you
later.
guys.